Now, the job of a tense is to show time of the action and form of the action. Once again, I repeat, the job of a tense is to show the time of the action and also the form of the action. Every action has three aspects, or you can say three phases of life: start, continuation, and the end. Once again, I repeat, it has three phases: start, continuation, and end. Depending upon what we are trying to emphasize upon, we are going to use the different form of the action. Now, let's understand past, present, future. Now, what is the simple form? As the name suggests, it's simple. We are not going to focus upon the continuation of the action. We are also not going to focus upon when the action got over. We are just going to talk about when the action happened, whether in the past, whether in present, or it's going to happen in future. So the example of past simple is he danced on the floor. Present simple is he writes a novel. Now guys, here I want to emphasize on a point that in examination, examiner will be asking you many questions on, or maybe you'll be judged on the concept of present simple. Why? Because there are three instances where present simple is used by default. Whenever you're talking about a fact, whenever there is a habit, or whenever there is a regular action. For example, if I'll say Ron is a boy, it's a fact. Someone, if someone is a boy or someone is a girl, it's a fact. What is a fact? Something which can't be changed. It's a universal truth, or something which is to be seen or observed, and it can't be changed or denied. Now, can I say Ron will be a boy? Can I change the form of the tense? I mean to say, can I make it in future? No, it sounds funny, it sounds nonsense. Can I say Ron was a boy? Again, I'm putting into past. No, it is not. Now, what is going to happen is in examination, examiner might give you a hobby, a sentence of a hobby, maybe in present simple, but that could be changed into future or something else. But then remember, a habit should be and always be is going to be mentioned in present simple. We are going to understand that thing in the later part of the recording. Now, what is future simple? It is nothing but an action which you will be doing in the future. He will write a novel. Now, let's focus on now the continuation of the action. Now, we are not going to focus upon the start of the action, but the continuation of the action. Whether the action was in motion in the past, whether the action is in motion in present, or whether the action is going to be in motion in future. And for this, we use gerunds. What is a gerund? Gerund is nothing but base form of the verb plus ing. Now guys, I strongly recommend you guys to go through the subject verb agreement recording so that tenses will make even more sense to you. Why? Because you should be knowing in depth about verbs. Then only you can understand tenses, or you can expect yourself to have the understanding in tenses the way it should be. For example, for past continuous, it is he was dancing on the floor. In present continuous, he is writing a novel. For future continuous, he will be writing a novel. Now, what you mean by perfect form? Now, when we speak of perfect, now let me tell you guys, perfect form, of course, examples are here, but I want to talk about and I want to emphasize a lot on the perfect form. Why? Because in examination, you will be definitely judged on this form of the tense if there is a question based on tenses. And we all know there is going to be a question on tenses no matter what examination you're appearing in. I'm talking about examination apart from CAT. In CAT, from last few years, grammatical questions are not coming up. But then you are going to appear in all the examinations except CAT. And in any exam, whenever there is a spot the error, sentence error correction question is there is going to be a question on tenses. And if it's on tenses, definitely it's going to be in perfect form. Now let me tell you what you mean by perfect form. Please listen to me very carefully. If you have to, please rewind the recording and listen to it again. Perfect form is basically the completed action. The first point we should be keep in mind is a perfect action or a perfect form of the action is a completed action. The second point is it has the effect on the next action. Once again, the first point is it is a completed action. The second point is it has the effect on the next action. The third point is it has to be used whenever you are depicting or showcasing two actions in a sequence, but the perfect form is going to be used with the first completed action. Once again, it should be used when you are depicting two actions in a sequence, showcasing one action has the effect on the other, or the end of the action is linked to somehow generation of the next action or effect on the next action. The perfect form should be used with the first completed action. I give you an example here. For past perfect, it is he had danced on the floor. For present perfect, he has written a novel. For future perfect, he will have written a novel. Now understand guys, for past we use had, and for present and future we use has and have, depending upon the subject. If the subject is singular, we are going to use has. If the subject is plural, we are going to use have. Once again guys, please listen to the subject verb agreement recording to have more understanding about this part. Let's go on to the perfect continuous tense. Now, the past perfect continuous is nothing but he had been dancing on the floor. In the present perfect continuous, it is he has been writing a novel. Now, as I've mentioned, you use has and have for present and future and had for the past. In future perfect continuous, it is he will have been writing a novel. Now guys, it is nothing but in future perfect continuous is nothing but the action where the action is going to start in future. We are focusing upon the continuation of the action, not on the start of the action, but the continuation of the action in future, and also on the end of the action in the future. I will be giving you examples on it, which is mentioned here, but then let's understand few commonly done errors on it. Now guys, I strongly recommend you guys to pause the video, listen to it again so that you have clear understanding about what the tenses are, and before you do it, please listen to subject verb agreement if you haven't. Let's understand tenses with few examples. Now guys, before we go on to the commonly done errors, please understand and keep in mind changes, as I mentioned here, changes in the tenses always impacts the verb form. If your tense is getting changed, the form of the verb might also change or is going to change depending upon what the tense is. Now once again, let me give you the revision. Simple is nothing but he danced on the floor for past. We are not focusing upon the continuation or the end. We're just talking about the action when it happened, past, present or future. In present simple, you will be asked questions because there are three instances where present simple should be used with default, by default. For example, whenever you're talking about a fact, whenever there is a habit or a regular action. In continuous, you're focusing upon the continuation of the action and you use gerund. Now remember guys, whenever the gerund is used, you have to use by default the helping verb. For example, he was dancing, was is a helping verb. He is writing, is a helping verb. It's a state of being verb but behaving as a helping verb in these sentences. He will be writing, be again. Similarly, in perfect continuous tense, you can see been in the past, he had been, he has been. So been is used there for the gerunds. What is a perfect form? Perfect form is nothing but a completed action. It is the action which has the effect on the next action, and it is used when two actions are showcased in a sequence related to each other, and it is always and always used with the first completed action. It is a completed action. Now let's understand the commonly done errors in tenses. Now guys, the first most commonly done error is logical shift of the tense. As it is mentioned here, we should change the tense from only when the actions are in different time frames. Now what happens is, maybe I'm talking and writing a sentence and two actions are depicted in the same time zone or maybe in different time zone. We change the tense form when it is not needed and we do not change the tense form when it is needed. So please pay attention to these errors. The second commonly done error is the main action or idea or you can say the subordinate action or an idea, when the two actions are shown or mentioned in a sequence and the first action has an effect on the next action, the first action should always be in a perfect form. As we have discussed earlier, whenever we are showcasing two actions in a sequence and one action has the effect on the other one, the first completed action, once again, the first completed action should be using has, have, had, depending upon whether it's in past, present, or future. Now, the next commonly done error is the simple tense form. Now, I have already emphasized on it at the beginning of the recording that you will be asked question on this form, usually in simple, present simple case. However, what is it? When it is not needed to express the specific time frame, simple tense form should be used. Present simple form should be used with facts, habits, and regular action. Now, we have already discussed that whenever there's a regular action, whenever you're talking about the facts and habits, present simple is used. Usage of similar tense. Now, as the name suggests, people change the tense form when they should be using the similar form. Actions expressed in same time frame should be using the same tense form. There is no need to change the tense form if two actions have taken place in the same time frame. Since. Now, since shows start of an action and it should always use the perfect form. It should always use the perfect form no matter what. Now, guys, people are always confused in since and from. They use since in place of from and from in place of since, and some people use from everywhere and since everywhere. Well, let me tell you that there is a huge difference in the usage of these two prepositions. These are prepositions. Since shows you what? Since shows you start of the action. For example, since 10 a.m. I'm studying. I have been studying. Or since 10 a.m. I have been studying. This is the right form of English. So you are focusing upon the start of the action. But when I say from last 2 hours I'm studying, it is nothing but the duration of the action. So now, please understand. Remember what I mentioned. Perfect form is used with the completed action and when it has the effect on the next action. Now, since is used to show the effect on a completed action. What start of the action? Now, why we are using since? Because it has effect on the next action, maybe in present or in past. So since should always use the perfect form. Let's understand about imperative mode and subjunctive mode. Now, I have mentioned here, as you can see, imperative mode versus subjunctive mode. Now, why we are discussing this under the tenses? Because tenses is nothing but the form of the action. Now, helping verb is also, or it tells you time of the action and form of the action in regards to time. So you have to pay attention to the form of the verb to use the correct form of the tense or the correct type of the tense. Now, let me tell you what I'm trying to explain here. Please listen to subject verb agreement recording before you come on to the tenses. Then this will make sense to you. It doesn't matter whether the subject is singular or plural, but if the sentence is expressing an order, a command, request, or suggestion, by default it considers plural verb form. So even if the subject is singular, still the base form of the verb is used, and the base form of the verb is nothing but the plural form. As it is mentioned here, what is the imperative mode? Imperative mode is nothing but it is used to express orders, command, requests, and suggestions. Now, whenever there is a sentence which is doing the same or one of these mentioned above expressions, you have to use the base form of the verb. For example, it is imperative that the citizen follows the traffic rules. Now, citizen is one subject, one person. I'm talking about one person. So I cannot use follows. I just gave you an incorrect example so that I can correct it. Follows is your singular verb form because follow is the base form plus s. Now, the right form it should be, it is imperative that the citizen follow the traffic rules. Follow, citizen, singular. But still I'm going to use follow because this sentence expresses a command. Here one more example is there. They requested that she be allowed to eat ice cream. Now why I'm saying to eat, not eats. Why? Because even if I use she or the, it doesn't matter. Now let's I have mentioned this thing this way so that it doesn't matter whether it's they or she. The verb form should always be eat, not eats. So it's going to be the base form of the verb. Let's understand about the subjunctive mode. It is used to express hypothetical situations or conditions like hope, recommendations, and proposals. Now, what is subjunctive mode is just like imperative mode. It is not just like, of course, it has a different meaning. What it does, it expresses hypothetical situations like hope, recommendations, and proposal. I hope this thing should happen. For example, if he were the king, he would have made the guilty suffer. Now, I'm not going to say if he was the king. Why? Because if I use the verb form was, it means he was surely a king. But it is a hope. It is a condition which we are talking about. So please pay attention to this thing. If you haven't understood it, pause the video, listen to it again, focus on your study material, go online, do some research. Let me tell you guys, these small presentations are basically trying to help you out to understand the concept, but then it doesn't mean it is the complete stuff. You have to still study the books, go online, practice the questions to get the perfection in it. So guys, here there are few examples based on various rules. Randomly I have selected these so that you get the understanding or practice of what we have just gone through. The wrong format or the wrong way of reading or writing this way or speaking this sentence is, Samantha called me to meet her after you left. Now guys, please pay attention to hear what I'm saying is. Now remember what I mentioned, if two actions are mentioned in a sequence, the first completed action should always be using the perfect form. Now there are two actions happen, called and left. Now, of course, which action happened first? Of course, when she left, when this person left, Samantha called. So the right form is, Samantha called me to meet her after you had left. Now, these both the actions are in past. Both the actions are in past, but this is my first completed action and Samantha called is my second completed action. So that is the reason I'm using had, past perfect, but I'm using the past perfect with the first completed action as we have discussed it. Since 1960 we are in business. Now I remember I've mentioned that since always and always going to use the perfect form. So I'm going to say the right form is, since 1960 we have been in business. Why? Because we are still in business, but the business started in 1960. So we have to use present perfect, which is have. Now, let's go to the another example. The wrong way is, I have seen the movie once already, so I don't want to see it again. The right is, I had seen the movie once already, so I don't want to see it again. Why? Because again, the similar example, just like the first one of Samantha, here I am talking about two completed actions in sequence, or you can say one completed action has the effect on the another completed action or the another action. Now, which one is the first action? Watching the movie, that's the reason I've used had there. Another example, honesty will be the best policy. Now this example is on present simple. Now honesty will be the best policy. Guys, grammatically this sentence is absolutely right, but then the expression is absolutely nonsense. Honesty was the best policy, today's also is the best policy, and tomorrow is going to be the best policy, because it's a fact. Fact can never be changed. It is same always. That is the reason it always uses the present simple format. That's the reason the right way of writing it is, honesty is the best policy. Now you will be asked questions on this concept in examination or might be gauged. So please pay close attention to these things. Wrong way is, it is imperative that the Jimmy studies hard. The right is, it is imperative that the Jimmy study hard. Now why? Because this is an imperative mode. It's a compulsion. So it doesn't matter whether the subject is singular or plural, we have to use the base form of the verb. Jimmy is singular, but still we are using study, the base form of the verb, not the singular verb form studies. That is incorrect. And we have mentioned it. Guys, if you didn't understand any of the thing, please pause the video, rewind, listen to it again so that these questions make sense to you. The wrong example is, he was unable to solve the question in exam even though he practices it yesterday. The right is he was unable to solve the question in exam even though he practiced it yesterday. Now guys, I'm not going to give you explanation why this sentence is right and why the previous one, the earlier one, is wrong. I want you guys to find the difference and ask yourself what is the reason that this is the right one and the other one is wrong. Let's go on to the last example. The wrong one is I kissed her when I meet her. The right is I kissed her when I met her. Now guys, I remember I've mentioned this, that if two actions are happening in past and there is no need to change depending upon the sentence construction what you are trying to express, if there is no need to change the tense form, you should not be changing it. Now what is the difference in between met and meet, the pronunciation and the present past? Now meet is present and met is met. Meet is meet and it is present and it should be used with the actions in present, and met is met, it is to be used with past. So I kissed her, this thing happened when I met her, so I'm talking about the two past actions, so this is the right one, the earlier one is wrong. Now guys, I hope this small presentation will help you to understand tenses. However, you have to read books, you have to solve questions, you have to revise this stuff. Keep on listening to this video maybe 2 times, 3 times to get the concept cemented in your head. This recording will definitely help you to understand tenses. If not completely, but at least 60 to 70% it will help you. Best of luck guys. Thank you.